The sound of expensive sneakers squeaking against the jet bridge floor was the only warning they got. 19-year-old Maya Sterling wasn't screaming. She wasn't fighting. She was holding her phone with a grip so tight her knuckles were white, while 2 airport security officers dragged her out of first class like a criminal. The lead flight attendant, Brenda, smirked, smoothing her skirt, thinking she had just protected the airline's elite clientele from a fraudster. She didn't know that the girl she just humiliated was on a call. She didn't know that the man listening on the other end wasn't just a concerned parent. He was the man who had signed the acquisition papers for the entire airline exactly 45 minutes ago. Brenda had just declared war on her new boss. And the receipt? It was going to cost her everything. The rain lashed against the reinforced glass of JFK International Airport, blurring the runway lights into streaks of neon red and yellow. Inside the cabin of Regal Atlantic Airways Flight 902 bound for London, the air smelled of recycled oxygen and the faint, expensive scent of bergamot from the hot towels being distributed in first class. Maya Sterling adjusted her noise-cancelling headphones, pulling the hood of her oversized vintage university sweatshirt further over her forehead. At 19, Maya had the kind of face that could easily blend into a crowd. Soft features, dark, curious eyes, and curly hair pulled back into a messy bun. She didn't look like the heiress to a multi-billion-dollar venture capital empire. She looked like a tired college student who had barely scraped together enough miles for a standby ticket. She sank into seat 1A, the most coveted spot on the Boeing 737-300ER. It was a private suite with sliding doors, gold-trimmed fixtures, and enough legroom to host a small yoga class. Maya loved 1A, not for the prestige, but for the isolation. After a week of intense internship interviews in New York, she just wanted to sleep until the wheels touched the tarmac at Heathrow. "Excuse me?" A voice, sharp and nasal, cut through her playlist. Maya didn't move immediately. She was listening to a podcast about market volatility. "Hello? Young lady." The voice was louder this time, accompanied by a sharp tap on her shoulder. Maya slid her headphones down, blinking. Standing over her was a man who looked like he had been manufactured in a factory that specialized in arrogance. He was wearing a bespoke Italian suit that probably cost more than a mid-sized sedan. His face was flushed, his silver hair slicked back, and his eyes were bulging slightly as he stared at her. This was Preston Caldwell, senior partner at Caldwell & Associates, a man used to people moving when he exhaled. Behind him stood Brenda Vance, the senior purser of the flight. Brenda was a veteran of the skies, with 30 years of service, a perfectly sprayed helmet of blonde hair, and a smile that didn't reach her cold, calculating blue eyes. "Can I help you?" Maya asked, her voice calm. "You're in my seat," Preston snapped, waving a gold-embossed boarding pass in her face. 1A. I always sit in 1A. Regal Atlantic knows this. Maya glanced at the pass in his hand. It clearly read 1B. "Sir, your ticket says 1B," Maya pointed out gently, gesturing to the suite across the aisle. "This is 1A. I have the boarding pass right here on my phone." Preston scoffed, a wet, dismissive sound. 1B is the aisle side. I specifically requested the window suite. My assistant confirmed it this morning. There has clearly been a mix-up. He turned to Brenda, snapping his fingers. "Brenda, fix this. I am a Diamond Pinnacle member. I don't sit across the aisle. I sit here." Brenda stepped forward, her perfume overpowering the bergamot. She looked at Maya, her eyes sweeping over the girl's attire. The fraying cuffs of the sweatshirt, the scuffed sneakers, the lack of designer luggage visible in the overhead bin. In Brenda's world, clothes didn't just make the man, they determined his worth. Maya looked like she belonged in row 54, near the lavatories, not in the flagship suite. "Miss," Brenda said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness that barely masked her irritation. "May I see your boarding pass, please?" Maya unlocked her phone and held up the QR code. "Maya Sterling, seat 1A. Brenda squinted at the screen, not scanning it, just judging it. "This is a digital pass. Sometimes the system glitches when we have overbooking or operational upgrades. How did you acquire this ticket?" Maya frowned. "I didn't acquire it. It was booked for me." "By whom? An employee relative?" Brenda raised an eyebrow. "Is this a non-revenue standby ticket?" "No," Maya said, her patience thinning. "It's a full-fare first-class ticket." Preston groaned loudly, checking his Rolex. "God, are we really going to do this? The girl is clearly a system error, Brenda. She's a kid. Probably hacked the app or got a lucky glitch. Just move her so I can get my pre-flight scotch." "Sir, please lower your voice," Maya said, her tone hardening slightly. "I have a valid ticket. If he wants the window, he should have booked it earlier." The cabin fell silent. Other passengers in first class, a tech CEO in 2A, a famous actress in 2B, stopped what they were doing to watch. No one spoke to Preston Caldwell that way, and certainly no teenager in a hoodie spoke to a senior purser that way. Brenda's smile vanished. The mask dropped. "Miss Sterling, is it? I need you to step out of the suite. Now!" "Why?" Maya asked, not moving. "Because Mr. Caldwell is a Diamond Pinnacle member with over 3 million miles flown with Regal Atlantic. When a conflict arises regarding seating assignments, priority is given to our most loyal customers. It's written in the terms of service." Brenda lied. It wasn't written anywhere, but Brenda knew how to bully inexperienced travelers. She assumed Maya would be intimidated by the jargon. "That applies to upgrades," Maya corrected her. She knew the policy because her father, Marcus Sterling, was obsessed with logistics and customer service contracts. "It doesn't apply to confirmed bookings. I am confirmed in 1A. Preston slammed his hand on the top of the suite partition. "Listen here, you insolent little brat. I have a merger to review, and I need privacy and the window. You are going to take your little backpack and move to the seat Brenda assigns you, or we are going to have a problem." Maya looked Preston dead in the eye. "We already have a problem, Mr. Caldwell, but it's not my ticket." Brenda leaned in, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "Listen to me clearly. You are delaying the flight. We have a manifest to clear. I can see you're confused about how things work up here. If you move to Economy Plus, I'll be generous and give you a meal voucher. If you stay in this seat, I will designate you as an unruly passenger." "Do you know what that means?" "It means federal agents meeting you at the gate." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. It was the injustice that stung more than the threat. She picked up her phone. "I need to make a call," Maya said. "You need to move," Brenda snapped. "Now." The tension in the first-class cabin was thick enough to choke on. The soft jazz music playing over the PA system felt incongruous with the hostility radiating from Brenda and Preston. "I'm not moving," Maya said firmly, fastening her seatbelt. The audible click of the buckle sounded like a gunshot in the silent cabin. Preston Caldwell threw his hands up, turning a shade of purple that was alarming. "This is unbelievable. I pay $15,000 for a seat, and I'm being held hostage by a delinquent teenager. Brenda, get the captain." "I don't need the captain," Brenda hissed, her eyes narrowing into slits. "I can handle this." She tapped her earpiece, connecting to the gate agent. "Gate, this is Purser Vance. We have a non-compliant passenger in 1A. Refusing crew instructions. Possible fraudulent ticketing. I need security to board immediately. Over." Maya's eyes widened. "Fraudulent? Are you insane? Just scan the ticket. I don't need to scan it to know you don't belong here, Brenda said, her voice loud enough for the whole cabin to hear. We have strict dress codes and conduct policies for first class. You are disturbing the peace and harassing our Diamond members. I haven't said a word to him other than to tell him his seat number, Maya protested, looking around for a witness. The actress in 2B looked sympathetic, but quickly looked away when Preston glared at her. No one wanted to get involved. Bystander effect was in full swing. 2 minutes later, heavy footsteps thudded down the jet bridge. 2 officers from the Port Authority entered the aircraft. One was older, Officer Miller, who looked tired and ready for his shift to end. The other was younger, Officer Jenkins, who looked eager to use his authority. What seems to be the problem? Miller asked, adjusting his utility belt. Her. Brenda pointed a manicured finger at Maya like a weapon. She has hijacked seat 1A. She holds a suspicious ticket, refuses to show ID to the crew, and has been verbally abusive to Mr. Caldwell here. I've given her a direct order to disembark, and she has refused. Under FAA regulations, she is now trespassing. Maya unbuckled her belt and stood up, her hands raised. That is a complete lie. I showed her my boarding pass. I haven't yelled. I haven't— That's enough, Officer Jenkins barked, stepping into the suite's personal space. Miss, grab your bag. You're coming off. Can you just listen to me? Maya pleaded, her voice trembling slightly. Check the system. My name is Maya Sterling. My father booked this— I don't care who your daddy is, Preston interrupted with a sneer. Get off my flight. Officer Miller sighed. Miss, if the crew wants you off, you have to get off. You can sort out the refund at the customer service desk, but you can't stay on the plane. If we have to remove you physically, you will be arrested for interfering with a flight crew. Do you want to go to jail tonight? Maya looked at Brenda. The flight attendant was crossing her arms, a look of triumphant smugness plastered on her face. She had won. She had asserted her dominance over the intruder and pleased the high-value client. Fine, Maya said, her voice icy. I'll get off, but I need my phone. Grab it and let's go, Jenkins said, grabbing Maya's upper arm. Don't touch me, Maya recoiled. Resisting, Jenkins said, seeing red. He grabbed her arm harder, twisting it slightly behind her back. Ow! I'm walking! I'm walking! Maya yelped. Let's go! Move it! They didn't let her walk with dignity. Jenkins kept a hand on her shoulder, shoving her forward. Maya stumbled into the aisle, her backpack catching on the seat. Preston Caldwell laughed, a cruel, guttural sound. Finally, Preston said, tossing his jacket onto the seat Maya had just vacated. Change the linens, Brenda. I don't want her germs. Right away, Mr. Caldwell, Brenda cooed. As Maya was force-marched toward the cabin door, she managed to swipe her thumb across her phone screen. She hit her favorites list. She tapped the contact labeled Dad. It rang once. Maya, you aboard? The deep, familiar voice of Marcus Sterling filled her ear. Dad, Maya choked out, tears finally spilling over as Officer Jenkins shoved her onto the jet bridge. They're hurting me. They're dragging me off the plane. Who is? Marcus's voice shifted instantly. It went from warm and paternal to something cold and terrifyingly sharp. Who is touching you, Maya? The police, the flight attendant. Brenda. They said I'm a fraud. They gave my seat to a guy named Preston Caldwell. Put me on speaker, Marcus commanded. Now. Maya tried to hold the phone up, but Officer Jenkins slapped her hand down. No calls. You can make a call from the holding cell. The phone clattered to the floor of the jet bridge, skittering face down. Dad! Maya screamed. Officer Miller picked up the phone. He was about to hang it up when he heard the voice on the other end. It wasn't shouting. It was a low, deadly calm, that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "Officer?" Marcus Sterling's voice echoed from the floor before Miller picked it up. "If you hang up that phone, or if you touch my daughter one more time, you will be unemployed before the sun sets. Put the phone to her ear. Now." Miller hesitated. There was an authority in that voice that superseded the badge. He looked at Jenkins, who was still gripping Maya's arm. "Let her go, Jenkins," Miller muttered. "What?" "She's a suspect," Jenkins argued. "I said let her go," Miller snapped. He handed the phone back to Maya. Maya grabbed it, her hands shaking. "Dad? I'm here, baby girl. Are you safe? Are you hurt?" "I'm okay," she sniffed, wiping her eyes with her sleeve. "I'm on the jet bridge. They kicked me off." "Okay," Marcus said. "Listen to me carefully. Do not leave that jet bridge. Do not let the plane leave. I need you to hand the phone to the person in charge." "Is the pilot there?" "No, just the police and the gate agent." "Give the phone to the senior purser. Brenda, was it?" Maya looked back at the aircraft door. Brenda was standing there, watching with a satisfied grin as the gate agent prepared to close the cabin door. Maya walked back toward the door. Jenkins moved to stop her, but Miller put a hand on his partner's chest. "Wait." Maya stood at the threshold of the plane. "Brenda!" Brenda looked up, annoyed. "I told you to leave the premises. Do I need to have you banned from the airport?" Maya held out the phone. "My father wants to speak to you." Brenda let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. "Oh, honey, I don't talk to angry daddies. I have a flight to manage. Tell him to write an email to customer relations. I'm sure they'll send you a coupon." She reached for the handle to close the heavy aircraft door. "He says he owns the airline," Maya said quietly. Brenda paused. Her hand hovered over the door lever. She looked at Maya, then at the phone, then back at Maya. A ripple of laughter went through the first-class cabin behind her. Preston Caldwell yelled out, "Oh, that's rich! The Do You Know Who I Am card. Classic." Brenda smirked. "Sweetie, Regal Atlantic is a publicly traded company owned by a consortium of investors. Your daddy doesn't own anything. Goodbye." She slammed the door in Maya's face. Maya stood there, staring at the locked steel door. She put the phone back to her ear. "She closed the door, Dad. She wouldn't talk to you." On the other end of the line, sitting in a boardroom in downtown Manhattan, surrounded by lawyers and the startled board of directors of Regal Atlantic, Marcus Sterling stood up. He looked out the window toward the airport skyline. "She closed the door," Marcus repeated, his voice devoid of emotion. He looked at the trembling CEO of Regal Atlantic, who was sitting across the table. "Mr. Henderson, call the tower. Ground that plane. Tell them if Flight 902 pushes back 1 inch, I am suing this entire board for breach of contract and gross negligence." Marcus looked down at his watch. "Maya, stay put. I'm taking a chopper. I'll be there in 12 minutes. Inside the cabin of Flight 902, the atmosphere had settled into a luxurious calm. With the disturbance removed, the first-class cabin felt reclaimed. Brenda Vance moved through the aisle like a queen returning to her throne. She smoothed the lapel of her navy blue blazer and signaled to the junior flight attendants, Sarah and Mike, to begin the pre-departure service. "Champagne, Mr. Caldwell?" Brenda asked, leaning over the partition of seat 1A. She had personally fluffed the pillow and removed any trace that Maya had ever been there. Preston Caldwell was already reclining, his shoes off, his feet resting on the ottoman. He looked up, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. "Make it a double, Brenda, and bring some warm nuts. I'm famished. Dealing with the riffraff takes a lot of energy." "You were very patient, sir," Brenda soothed, pouring the Dom Perignon with practiced elegance. "It's a shame security is so lax these days. Anyone can download a fake ticket app. It's the entitlement, Preston grumbled, taking a sip. Kids these days think they deserve the world just because they exist. Imagine telling me to move. I've been flying Regal since before she was born. Well, she's the police's problem now, Brenda said with a final, dismissive smile. She turned and walked back to the galley, checking her reflection in the metal cabinet. She felt a surge of adrenaline. She loved moments like this, moments where she could exercise her absolute authority. She was the captain of the cabin, and her word was law. In the cockpit, however, the mood was vastly different. Captain James Anderson, a 50-year-old veteran pilot with a grey moustache and a by-the-book attitude, was going through the pre-flight checklist. His co-pilot, First Officer David Chen, was keying in the final route data to London Heathrow. "Doors confirmed, closed and armed," Anderson said into his headset. "Tower, Regal 902, heavy. We are at gate B12, ready for pushback." There was a pause on the radio. Usually the response was immediate. JFK was busy, but the slot was booked. "Regal 902, Tower. Hold position." The air traffic controller's voice came back, sounding unusually tense. "Cancel pushback clearance. Do not, I repeat, do not release brakes." Anderson frowned, exchanging a glance with Chen. "Tower, 902. Is there traffic on the taxiway? We are on schedule." "Regal 902, this comes from the top. We have a red stop order on your aircraft. Company dispatch has flagged the flight. You are to hold at the gate until further notice. Engines off." "Red stop?" Chen whispered, his eyes widening. "I've never heard a red stop for a commercial flight. That's usually for bomb threats or hijackings." Anderson's stomach tightened. He keyed the intercom to the cabin crew. "Brenda, come to the flight deck. Immediately." Back in the galley, Brenda was just opening a second bottle of champagne when the phone chimed. She picked it up, expecting the "prepare for takeoff" signal. "Yes, Captain?" "Brenda, what happened back there?" Anderson's voice was sharp. "Nothing, Captain. Just a seating dispute. A non-rev passenger refused to move for a Diamond member. We had her removed, standard procedure." "Did security clear the removal?" "Yes. Port Authority took her off." "Well, something is wrong," Anderson snapped. "Tower just grounded us. Company orders. Did anything else happen? Did she say anything?" Brenda rolled her eyes, annoyed that the pilot was questioning her management. She was just a hysterical teenager, Captain. Claimed her daddy owned the airline or some nonsense. The usual delusions of grandeur. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. She said, "Her father owns the airline?" Anderson asked slowly. "Yes." "Why?" "Stand by." The line clicked dead. Brenda scoffed, hanging up the phone. Pilots were so dramatic. She returned to the cabin, pasting her smile back on. But as she walked past seat 1A, she noticed something that made her step falter. Outside the window, the jet bridge hadn't retracted. Usually, the bridge pulled away seconds after the door closed, but it was still there, clamped to the side of the fuselage like a leech, and on the tarmac below, activity was ceasing. The baggage handlers had stopped loading the final cargo container. They were standing around, looking at their tablets, confused. The fuel truck, which had already detached, was driving back toward the plane. "What is going on?" Preston complained, noticing the lack of movement. "Why aren't we moving? I have a dinner reservation at the Shard tomorrow night." "Just a minor technical check, Mr. Caldwell," Brenda lied smoothly. "We'll be underway momentarily." Suddenly, the plane's intercom crackled to life. But it wasn't the captain's voice. It was a voice coming from the ground frequency, patched through to the cabin speakers, a rare, override channel usually reserved for emergencies. "Flight 902, this is Regal Atlantic Operations Control. This is the Director of Flight Operations, Sarah Jenkins. This aircraft is grounded effective immediately. Do not, I repeat, do not attempt to leave the gate. We have a Code 0 situation regarding a passenger ejection. The entire first-class cabin went silent. A Code 0? Passengers exchanged nervous glances. Was it a terrorist? A disease outbreak? Preston sat up straight, his face reddening. What the hell is a Code 0? Brenda! Brenda felt a cold bead of sweat trickle down her spine. Code 0 didn't exist in her training manuals. The intercom crackled again. Captain Anderson, unlock the main cabin door immediately. You are receiving incoming personnel. Cooperation is mandatory. Open the door, Brenda whispered to herself. But we're sealed. A heavy thud echoed against the fuselage. Someone was banging on the outside of the aircraft door. 10 minutes earlier, inside the chaotic echo chamber of Terminal 4, the atmosphere shifted. Airports are places of constant, low-level stress. People rushing, announcements blaring, kids crying. But then, a hush began to spread near the TSA checkpoint. It started as a ripple and turned into a wave of silence. The sliding glass doors of the VIP entrance blew open, not from the wind, but from the sheer force of the group entering. Leading the phalanx was Marcus Sterling. He was a man who occupied space with the density of a collapsing star. Standing 6'3", wearing a charcoal suit that was tailored to within an inch of its life, Marcus didn't walk. He marched. His face, usually composed and featured on the covers of Forbes and Fortune for his innovative tech acquisitions, was currently a mask of controlled fury. Flanking him were 4 men. 2 were his personal security detail, ex-Navy SEALs who scanned the terminal with predatory gazes. The other 2 were lawyers from the firm Sterling, Roth and Associates. One of them, lead counsel Arthur Penderecki, was already on the phone, screaming legal threats that were making the TSA supervisor pale. "I don't care about the protocol," Penderecki yelled into his phone. "Mr. Sterling is bypassing the checkpoint. If you touch him, I will have a federal injunction on your desk before you can blink." They didn't stop for the metal detectors. They walked right through. The alarms blared, and 3 TSA agents stepped forward to block them. "Sir, stop!" a TSA agent shouted. Marcus didn't even slow down. He didn't even look at the agent. One of his security guards simply held up a badge, a high-level diplomatic clearance badge that Marcus possessed, due to his work with international defense contracts. The TSA agent froze, saw the badge, and stepped back as if burned. "Where is Gate B12? Marcus demanded, his voice low and gravelly. He wasn't asking for directions. He was demanding the universe align with his destination. Running to catch up with them was a short, balding man sweating profusely in a cheap suit. This was Mr. Richard O'Malley, the JFK station manager for Regal Atlantic. He had been in the middle of a sandwich when he received the call that the owner of the airline, the man who had just bought the company that morning, was currently storming his terminal. "Mr. Sterling! Mr. Sterling, sir!" O'Malley wheezed, jogging alongside Marcus. "Please, sir, we can handle this in the VIP lounge. There's no need to go to the gate. It's a misunderstanding." Marcus stopped abruptly. The sudden halt made O'Malley nearly trip over his own feet. Marcus turned slowly to look down at the station manager. His eyes were dark, burning with a cold intelligence. "A misunderstanding? Is that what you call 2 men assaulting my 19-year-old daughter?" "Assault?" O'Malley squeaked. "No, sir, the report says she was escorted off for non-compliance, a seating issue. She was booked in 1A, Marcus said, his voice rising, drawing the attention of everyone in the terminal. "I booked it myself, and your staff dragged her off like a criminal to give the seat to a— Who was it?" "A Diamond member," O'Malley stammered. "Mr. Caldwell." Caldwell. Marcus tasted the name like it was poison. If my daughter has a single bruise, Mr. O'Malley, I am not just firing people. I am dismantling lives. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir," O'Malley whispered. "Get me to the gate. Run!" They reached gate B12 in record time. The scene was confusion. Passengers were crowding the desk, demanding to know why the flight was delayed. The gate agents were on the phone, looking panicked, and there, standing near the entrance to the jet bridge, shivering in her oversized hoodie, was Maya. She looked small. She was hugging herself, her backpack on the floor. Officer Miller and Officer Jenkins were standing near her, looking unsure of what to do with the suspect, now that the airline wouldn't file charges but wouldn't let her leave. "Maya," Marcus's voice cut through the noise. It wasn't the voice of the Titan anymore. It was the voice of a father. Maya looked up. When she saw him, her brave face crumbled. "Dad!" She ran to him. Marcus dropped his briefcase, a leather item worth thousands, straight onto the dirty airport floor and caught her. He wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in her hair. She sobbed into his chest, the stress of the humiliation finally breaking her. "I've got you," Marcus whispered, kissing the top of her head. "I've got you." He held her for a long moment, letting her cry. Then, gently, he pulled back. He looked at her face, scanning for injuries. He saw the red marks on her upper arm where Officer Jenkins had grabbed her. Marcus's expression shifted. The father vanished. The predator returned. He slowly turned to look at the two police officers. Officer Jenkins, the younger one who had been so aggressive, swallowed hard. He put a hand on his belt, instinctively trying to look tough. "Did you do that?" Marcus pointed a finger at the bruise forming on Maya's arm. "Sir, she was resisting removal," Jenkins said, his voice wavering. "We followed protocol." "Protocol?" Marcus stepped closer. His security detail moved with him, creating a wall of muscle. "She weighs 110 pounds. You are a 200-pound man. You didn't escort her. You manhandled her." Arthur Penderecki, the lawyer, stepped in. "Officer Jenkins, badge number 4922. We are filing a formal complaint for excessive force and false imprisonment with the Port Authority, the NYPD, and the District Attorney's Office within the hour. I'd suggest you call your union rep. You're going to need a very good one." Jenkins looked at Miller for help, but Miller stepped back, distancing himself. "I told him to let her go," Miller mumbled. Marcus turned his back on the police. He looked at the closed door of the jet bridge. "Mr. O'Malley," Marcus said, without looking at the manager. "Yes, sir." "Open that door." "Sir, the pilot has sealed the aircraft. Once the manifest is closed, open the door." Marcus turned, his eyes blazing. "Or I will drive a baggage truck through it myself." O'Malley scrambled to the control panel. He keyed in his override code. The heavy gears of the jet bridge groaned. The accordion tunnel extended. Marcus looked at Maya. "You ready to go back on?" Maya wiped her eyes. She looked at the plane that had rejected her. She looked at her dad. "I just want to go home, Dad." "We are going home," Marcus said, straightening his tie. "But first, we are going to teach a lesson in customer service. Come with me." He took her hand. They walked down the jet bridge, the sound of their footsteps echoing like a drumbeat of war. At the end of the bridge, O'Malley pounded on the aircraft door. "Captain, open up! Station manager!" Inside, Brenda hesitated. She looked through the peephole. She saw O'Malley, and behind him, she saw a tall, terrifying man in a charcoal suit, and the girl she had just thrown out. "Captain," Brenda said into the intercom, her voice trembling. "They want in." "Open it, Brenda," the captain ordered. "Now." Brenda disarmed the door. She rotated the heavy handle. The seal broke with a hiss of escaping pressure. She pushed the door open. Marcus Sterling didn't wait to be invited. He stepped across the threshold onto the plane, bringing the cold air of the terminal with him. He loomed over Brenda, who suddenly felt very, very small. He didn't scream. He didn't yell. He looked at her name tag. Brenda Vance, Marcus read aloud. He looked up at her face. Senior Purser. 30 years of service. Brenda found her voice. Sir, you cannot board this aircraft without a boarding pass. This is a federal violation. I don't need a boarding pass, Brenda, Marcus said, his voice projecting into the silent first-class cabin. I own the plane. He stepped past her, pulling Maya with him. He walked straight to seat 1A. Preston Caldwell was there, a glass of champagne halfway to his mouth. He looked up, annoyed at the draft. What is the meaning of this? Why is that girl back? Marcus stopped in front of seat 1A. He looked down at Preston. Get out, Marcus said. Preston laughed. It was a nervous, high-pitched sound. Excuse me? Who do you think you are? Marcus leaned down, placing both hands on the armrests of the suite, trapping Preston. My name is Marcus Sterling. I am the CEO of Sterling Ventures. As of 9 a.m. this morning, my firm acquired a controlling 60% stake in Regal Atlantic Airways, which means I own this seat. I own that champagne you're drinking. I own the uniform on that flight attendant. And I own the fuel in the wings. He leaned closer, his nose inches from Preston's. And you are sitting in my daughter's seat. The silence in the first-class cabin was absolute. Even the ambient hum of the aircraft systems seemed to dampen in deference to the confrontation unfolding in row 1. Preston Caldwell sat frozen, his champagne glass tilted precariously. The liquid sloshed over the rim, dripping onto his expensive Italian trousers, but he didn't notice. He was staring up at Marcus Sterling, searching for a bluff. He found none. You're lying, Preston sputtered, though his voice lacked its previous conviction. Regal Atlantic is owned by a hedge fund group. I read the Wall Street Journal. There was no acquisition. The deal closed at 8:45 a.m., Marcus said, his voice terrifyingly calm. The press release goes out in... He checked his Patek Philippe watch. 3 minutes. You're getting the exclusive preview, Mr. Caldwell. Consider it a perk of your diamond status. Marcus straightened up and snapped his fingers. He didn't look back. He simply knew his people were there. The 2 security guards from his detail stepped into the cabin, filling the aisle with an imposing wall of muscle. Remove him, Marcus ordered. Now wait just a minute. Preston scrambled to stand up, knocking his tray table over. You can't just kick me off. I paid $15,000 for this seat. I have rights. I'm a citizen. You are a liability, Marcus corrected him. You disrupted a flight crew, verbally assaulted a minor, and attempted to commandeer a seat that wasn't yours. Under the FAA regulations you were so fond of quoting earlier, the pilot in command has the authority to remove any passenger deemed a threat to the safety or order of the flight. Marcus turned his head slightly toward the cockpit door, where Captain Anderson was standing, looking pale and shaken. Captain, Marcus said, is this man disrupting your flight? Captain Anderson didn't hesitate. He saw the writing on the wall, he saw the new owner, and he saw the behavior of the man in 1A. Yes, sir, he is. I want him off my aircraft. Preston's jaw dropped. Anderson, we played golf at the Pro-Am last year. Are you serious? Get off the plane, Mr. Caldwell, Anderson said firmly. Preston turned to Brenda, his last ally. Brenda, tell them I'm a priority passenger. Brenda Vance was pressed against the galley wall, her face the color of ash. She couldn't speak. She knew that if she opened her mouth, she would vomit. She just shook her head, distancing herself from the sinking ship. Let's go, sir, one of Marcus's security guards said, gripping Preston's elbow, firmly but professional. Unlike Officer Jenkins, these men knew exactly how to apply pressure without leaving a mark. "Get your hands off me!" Preston shrieked, his dignity evaporating instantly. He flailed, trying to grab his briefcase. "I will sue you! I will sue this entire airline! Do you know who I represent?" "I know exactly who you represent," Marcus said, stepping aside to let them drag Preston into the aisle. "And I'll be calling your managing partners at Caldwell & Associates personally to let them know their senior partner assaults teenage girls in his spare time. I wonder how your clients will feel about that." Preston went pale. The fight left him. As he was frog-marched down the aisle, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted. The fear evaporated, replaced by a collective sense of justice. The actress in 2B, who had been silent earlier, pulled out her phone and started recording. The tech CEO in 2A started clapping. It was a slow clap at first, then others joined in. "Get off!" someone shouted from business class. "Bye, Karen!" another yelled. Preston Caldwell, the man who had boarded as a king, was dragged off the plane past the very people he had sneered at. He passed Maya, who was standing by the door, still holding her father's hand. He didn't look at her. He couldn't. Officer Miller and Officer Jenkins were still on the jet bridge. When Preston was shoved out the door, Officer Miller looked at Marcus. "Do you want us to arrest him, Mr. Sterling?" Miller asked, trying to salvage his own reputation. "No," Marcus said coldly. "He's not worth the paperwork. Just blacklist him. Lifetime ban. If he tries to book a ticket on Regal Atlantic or any of our subsidiaries, his name flags red." He walks home. The door to the jet bridge closed behind Preston, leaving the cabin quiet once more. Marcus turned to the cabin. He looked at the passengers, who were now staring at him with a mix of awe and apprehension. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his voice projecting clearly, "I apologize for the delay and the disturbance. We will be departing shortly. As a gesture of goodwill for the inconvenience, every passenger on this flight will receive a full refund of their ticket price and a voucher for future travel. Enjoy your flight to London." A cheer erupted that started in first class and rolled all the way back to economy as the news spread. Marcus turned to Maya. "Go sit down, sweetheart. 1A is yours." Maya hugged him again, tighter this time. "Thank you, Dad." She slid back into the seat, the leather still warm, but the air felt different now. It felt safe. Marcus didn't leave. He turned to the empty seat across the aisle. Seat 1B. The seat Preston was supposed to have. He took off his suit jacket, folded it neatly, and placed it in the overhead bin. Brenda watched him, her eyes widening in horror. You're staying, sir?" she whispered. Marcus sat down in 1B, fastening his seatbelt. He looked at Brenda. His expression was unreadable, which made it all the more terrifying. "Yes, Brenda," Marcus said softly. "I'm flying to London. I think it's time I experienced the service on my new airline firsthand. Don't you?" The seatbelt sign pinged off as the aircraft leveled out at 35,000 feet, cruising smoothly over the Atlantic. The cabin was dim, illuminated only by the soft mood lighting. For Brenda Vance, however, this was not a relaxing flight. It was a 6-hour wake. She was standing in the galley, her hands shaking so badly she could barely plate the appetizers. Every time she looked out into the cabin, she saw the back of Marcus Sterling's head in seat 1B. He hadn't said a word to her since takeoff. He hadn't asked for a drink. He hadn't asked for a pillow. He was just sitting there, working on a tablet. "Brenda," the junior flight attendant, Sarah, whispered. He pushed the call button. Brenda flinched as if she'd been slapped. She looked at the panel. Seat 1B. You go, Brenda begged. Please, Sarah, you take it. I can't, Sarah hissed. He's the owner, and you're the senior purser. It's your section. If you don't go, he'll think you're neglecting him. Brenda swallowed the lump of bile in her throat. She smoothed her skirt, checked her reflection. She looked haggard, the stress lines around her eyes deep canyons, and walked into the aisle. She approached seat 1B. Maya, across the aisle in 1A, was asleep, her noise-cancelling headphones on, finally at peace. Marcus was awake. He was reading a PDF document on his iPad. Brenda recognized the logo on the header. Regal Atlantic Employee Conduct Handbook. Mr. Sterling? Brenda's voice cracked. She cleared it. Mr. Sterling, you rang? Marcus didn't look up immediately. He finished the paragraph he was reading, swiped the page, and then slowly turned his head. Water, he said. Sparkling. No ice. Right away, sir. Brenda rushed to the galley. She fumbled with the bottle of San Pellegrino. She placed it on a silver tray with a crystal glass and a linen napkin. Her hands were trembling so much the glass clinked against the bottle as she walked back. She placed the tray on his table. Here you are, sir. Marcus picked up the glass. He took a sip. He set it down. Brenda, he said. Yes, sir. How long have you worked for Regal Atlantic? 30 years, sir. Since 1995. 30 years, Marcus repeated. That's a long time. You must have seen a lot of changes. Yes, sir. Many. Tell me. Marcus turned his chair to face her fully. In those 30 years, at what point did the policy change to allow the bullying of paying customers based on their age and appearance? Brenda looked at the floor. Sir, I made a mistake in judgment. Mr. Caldwell was very persuasive, and I assumed— You assumed, Marcus cut her off. You assumed my daughter was nobody. You assumed she was weak. You assumed that because she didn't look like him— He gestured to the empty space where Preston had been— that she didn't deserve respect. I am so sorry, sir. I was trying to de-escalate. No, Marcus said, his voice dropping to a whisper that was louder than a shout. You were capitulating. You traded your integrity for the approval of a man in a suit. You saw a young black girl and a rich white man, and you decided immediately who mattered and who didn't. That isn't a mistake in judgment, Brenda. That is a defect in character. Brenda started to cry, silent, hot tears running down her makeup. Please, sir, I need this job. I have a mortgage. I'm 2 years away from full pension. Marcus watched her cry. He didn't enjoy it, but he didn't pity it either. The flight is 6 hours and 10 minutes remaining, Marcus said, looking back at his tablet. I expect perfect service for the duration of this flight. I expect you to check on my daughter every 30 minutes to see if she needs anything. I expect you to do the job you are paid to do. And after we land? Brenda asked, her voice trembling with hope. Marcus paused. He took another sip of water. We'll discuss your pension in London. Now clear this glass. Brenda took the glass and fled to the galley. Maya stirred across the aisle. She pulled off her headphones and looked at her dad. Dad, are you okay? Marcus's face softened instantly. I'm fine, honey. Just doing a little work. Go back to sleep. Is she going to be okay? Maya asked, gesturing vaguely toward the galley. Maya was too kind, Marcus thought. After everything, she was still worried about the woman who had humiliated her. She's learning a lesson, Maya, Marcus said gently. Sometimes the universe takes a long time to balance the scales. Today we just sped it up a little. Maya smiled, a tired, genuine smile. You really bought the Airline? I was going to buy it next month, Marcus admitted with a grin. I just accelerated the timeline. The board was very surprised when I walked in with the check an hour ago. You're crazy, Maya laughed. "I'm a father," Marcus corrected. "Get some rest." For the rest of the flight, the service was impeccable. Brenda was a ghost, moving silently, refilling waters before they were empty, folding napkins, ensuring the cabin was spotless. She worked with the desperate energy of someone trying to outrun an execution. But every time she looked at Marcus Sterling, he was just calm. He ate his meal. He watched a movie. He slept. He existed in the space she had tried to deny him, and his presence was a constant, crushing weight on her chest. As the plane began its descent into Heathrow, the lights of London sprawling below them, Brenda knew that the hardest part wasn't the flight. The hardest part was going to be the landing, because when the doors opened, she wasn't just losing a passenger. She was facing the reckoning. The wheels of Flight 902 kissed the tarmac at London Heathrow with a gentle thud, a testament to Captain Anderson's skill, even while his hands were likely sweating against the yoke. The reverse thrusters roared, slowing the massive machine, but for Brenda Vance, the sound was like the closing of a prison gate. The taxi to the gate felt interminable. The cabin lights flickered on, harsh and bright, washing out the soft, forgiving mood lighting of the flight. Brenda stood up, her legs feeling like lead. She went through the motions, disarming the doors, cross-checking, smiling at passengers who were oblivious to the execution awaiting her. As the jet bridge connected, Brenda took her station by the 1L door. This was her spot. For 30 years, she had stood here to bid farewell to presidents, celebrities, and royalty. Today, she just wanted to disappear into the wall paneling. The first-class curtain parted. Marcus Sterling emerged first, looking as crisp and imposing as he had when he boarded. He carried his own briefcase. Behind him was Maya, looking rested, her headphones around her neck, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Brenda clasped her hands in front of her. She forced her eyes up. "Goodbye, Mr. Sterling. Goodbye, Miss Sterling," she said, her voice a fragile whisper. "Thank you for flying with us." Marcus stopped. He didn't step off the plane immediately. He turned to face her one last time. The queue of passengers behind him waited, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Brenda," Marcus said, his voice low enough that only she and Maya could hear. "Do you know why I bought this airline?" "No, sir," she breathed. "I bought it because I believe in excellence. I believe in connecting the world. But mostly, I bought it because I wanted to ensure that no one, no matter what they wear, no matter the color of their skin, and no matter who their father is, ever feels the way you made my daughter feel today." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. It wasn't his. It was a generic card with a phone number and an address in London. "Report to this address at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Personnel Services is expecting you." "Sir, please!" Brenda's composure finally cracked. A single tear escaped. "My pension. I've given my life to this airline." "You gave your time, Brenda," Marcus corrected her. "You didn't give your heart. And in the service industry, time is cheap. Empathy is the currency. You're bankrupt." He turned and walked on to the jet bridge. Maya paused. She looked at Brenda, not with anger, but with a pity that hurt Brenda more than the anger would have. "I hope you learn to be kinder," Maya said softly. Then she followed her father. 24 hours later. The office of Regal Atlantic's European HR director in central London was a glass box overlooking the Thames. It was sterile, cold, and quiet. Brenda Vance sat in a chair that was slightly too low, making her feel like a child. Across from her sat the HR director, a woman named Eleanor, and a legal representative. On the desk between them lay a tablet. "Have you seen this, Miss Vance?" Eleanor asked, tapping the screen. Brenda shook her head. Eleanor turned the tablet around. It was a video. The angle showed it was filmed from seat 2B. It showed everything. It showed Brenda sneering at Maya. It showed Preston Caldwell yelling. It showed the police dragging Maya off. And crucially, it showed Brenda smirking as the door closed. The video had been posted by the actress in 2B. The caption read, "Witnessed the vilest behavior on Regal Atlantic today. Senior purser and a snob passenger bullied a teenage girl off the flight. Little did they know, her dad just bought the company. Karma is real. Boycott bullying. Joe Regal Atlantic." The video had 14 million views. "The PR fallout is catastrophic," Eleanor said, turning the tablet off. "We have thousands of cancellations this morning. The hashtag is trending globally." I can apologize," Brenda stammered. "I can make a public statement." "That won't be necessary," Eleanor said, sliding a thick envelope across the desk. "Effective immediately, your employment with Regal Atlantic is terminated for gross misconduct. Specifically, violation of the non-discrimination policy and actions causing severe reputational damage to the brand." Brenda opened the envelope. Her hands shook as she read the letter. "Gross misconduct?" Brenda gasped. "But that means... It means your pension is voided," the legal representative spoke up for the first time. "Under the terms of your contract, gross misconduct forfeits all unvested benefits and severance packages. You are leaving with your final paycheck for this week. That is all." Brenda felt the room spin. 30 years, the retirement home in Florida, the cruises she had planned, gone. All because she wanted to please a man like Preston Caldwell. "You can't do this," Brenda whispered. "We can," Eleanor said, standing up. "And frankly, Ms. Vance, after seeing that video, we are happy to do it. Please leave your badge and ID on the desk. Security will escort you out." Brenda walked out of the building into the grey London drizzle. She had no job. She had no pension. And as she looked at her phone, she saw her inbox was full of hate mail from strangers who had found her social media profiles. She was famous, just like she always wanted to be. But for all the wrong reasons. Meanwhile, in a luxury suite at the Savoy Hotel, Marcus and Maya were having afternoon tea. The news played softly on the TV in the background. A reporter was standing outside the Caldwell & Associates building in New York. Scandal continues to rock the financial world as Preston Caldwell, a senior partner, was fired this morning following a viral video of an in-flight altercation. Additionally, reports confirm that Mr. Caldwell has been placed on the permanent no-fly list for Regal Atlantic and its partners, effectively grounding the international lawyer. Marcus picked up the remote and turned the TV off. He didn't need to see it. He knew the outcome. He had made the calls himself. He looked at Maya. She was eating a scone, looking out at the London Eye. She looked young again. The weight of the incident had lifted. "You know, Dad," Maya said, wiping a crumb from her lip, "you didn't have to buy the whole airline. You could have just sued them." Marcus smiled, pouring himself a cup of Earl Grey. "I know, but suing takes years. I wanted to make sure you got your window seat back before the plane took off." Maya laughed. "So, what are you going to do with it now? The airline?" "I'm going to change it," Marcus said seriously. "I'm going to make sure that every single person who works for us understands that dignity isn't reserved for first class. It's a basic human right." He reached across the table and took her hand. "And I'm going to make sure they know that if they mess with Maya Sterling, they answer to me." Maya squeezed his hand back. "Thanks, Dad." "Any time, kiddo. Any time." And that is the story of how one act of prejudice cost a flight attendant her career and a billionaire his reputation. It's a powerful reminder that you never truly know who you are dealing with. Maya's story isn't just about a wealthy father swooping in to save the day. It's about the importance of standing your ground when you know you are right, and the satisfying reality that sometimes karma arrives on a private jet. We live in a world where people often judge others by their appearance, their age, or their clothes. Brenda and Preston learned the hard way that respect should be the default, not a privilege you earn with a platinum card. If you enjoyed this story of massive justice and instant karma, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching.